We have a potent week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, there's a lunar eclipse in Pisces, causing us to reflect on behavior that impedes us. Libra season begins, encouraging us to crave harmony in our love lives. There's going to be a 3-planet aspect pattern involving Venus, which will give us the urge to work on unresolved romantic situations. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to be in retrograde turning point alignments, leading to a need to review our unconscious patterns. And Mercury plus Venus will be making the most alignments over these next 7 days, causing us to work on communication issues and relationship situations. Since the third week of September has an edgy tone to it, the vibes in the graph are kind of all over the place in terms of varying tones that are going on. Social vibes will last until the 17th, so we might have the urge to mingle a little bit, but an opposite vibe is happening that next day, and this is going to be a solitude energy. So we'll go from being in the mood to mingle to needing some personal space. From the 19th to the 22nd, psychic vibes will be the highest energy on the graph. These intuitive tones will intersect a smidge of good luck energy, emotional sensitivity, mental vibes, and romance. So for this reason, Thursday through Sunday is going to feel like a mixed bag, and our moods can feel like they're fluctuating, where we might feel good a little bit, but then feel edgy, and then be in our heads, and also find ourselves fixating on romantic situations. So yeah, we're in for an interesting week. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. Over this week, Venus is going to make 4 complex alignments with an aspect pattern thrown in for good measure. The transits that Venus is connecting to will be to Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So this could drudge up problematic scenarios that we need to work on concerning our relationship patterns and financial situations. So these next 7 days is a time to get honest about situations that's causing self-sabotage. Also, through all of this, a yad's going to occur. This is going to involve Uranus and Neptune with Venus at that pressure point. So Venus is going to be at that apex point, and this is going to put a lot of pressure on anything to do with Venusian themes. So this could bring up situations where we need to heal scenarios that cause drama, work on self-respect, learn to value ourselves, break cycles of codependency, understand why we're attracted to instability or unstable types, and where we need to set limits with ourselves and boundaries with others. Also, Pluto's going to be connected into this at that point in time. This aspect pattern is getting stronger, so it may bring up some more issues about jealousy, over suspicion in relationships, control issues, pettiness, or issues where we just feel like we need to even the score. And this is also going to bring up things about our finances as well, why we may need to fix our spending habits, and why we need to understand our worth when it comes to a career or a job situation that may feel soul-sucking. And so we're going to feel this throughout the entire week because all of these Venus alignments are occurring over the next 7 days, especially with the Pluto stuff at the end of the week and that yad really hitting its strongest effects by the time we get to Friday. So this energy can feel intense involving all those Venusian things. On top of that, once we get to the 19th, we've got 4 days of edgy mercurial transit. And all of this is going to be lasting until the 22nd. So from the 19th to the 22nd, we'll be dealing with intricacies involving Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, and Pluto, which might rev up harsh thinking, minimizing problems, and just edgy interactions overall. So energy like this could lead to being too harsh on ourselves, and we need to be mindful of that. We may feel so stressed out or triggered that we start shutting down and just detaching. So a little bit of depersonalization or just disassociating may be happening during this time. And this could lead to weird interactions because one, we're wanting to limit our interactions. We're not feeling like we want to communicate as much. We may feel pulled back because we're dealing with our own stuff. And it could lead to interactions that seem a little bit short. So if you're on that end, it might feel like people are blowing you off, but on the other side of it, you may end up hearing that from other people where they feel like you're being very dismissive in this energy. But vibes like this just really lead to a low bandwidth for communication. And also, with some of the stuff with this attaching to Pluto, it could be power struggly that day. With the Jupiter stuff, it could be dealing with people who have really big egos and dealing with arrogance and that sort of thing, or just having a lot of domineering conversations where people either throw their weight around or they're just blowing out a lot of hot air. Also, there's a little bit of fibbery that comes along when Mercury and Jupiter are in a hard aspect. So it may be a time to not believe everything you hear. There's some Neptune stuff that's going on around that time too, so I would definitely recommend not believing everything you hear over the weekend especially. Circling back from the period of the 19th to the 22nd, we have a bunch of sun alignments occurring. The sun's going to make transits to the outer planets, and this is going to mark some beginnings, midpoints, and endings when it comes down to those retrograde cycles. The sun's making synodic cycles with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. One of the cool things I notice about this is these transits are happening in an order of beginning, middle, and end, which is quite interesting, but also synchronistic. And for this reason, this weekend might feel like we're beginning chapters. We might be at a midpoint where we're trying to decide where to go. We might be kind of on that fork in the road, and there may mark a period where we're closing something out. But with the sun's connection to Uranus, this is marking the opening and acceleration of this planet's regressive cycle. In other words, we've got the sun making an opening trine with Uranus, and so it helps in getting Uranus out of that stationing period and pushing it forward into its retrograde motion. So Uranus is finally moving after being in station for quite a while. And this energy is excellent. It actually brings in a carefree tone and can really soften the air considering. And then usually you don't say that with Uranus situations, but with this being a trine, this can really bring in an upbeat tone where we're starting to feel more encouraged. We may be experiencing some breakthroughs or feeling like it's time to get ourselves moving again and out of a stale period. Vibes like this just invigorate us. It invigorates our ego and our confidence, enabling us to solve challenging problems and to feel a sense of freedom in our lives. Also, we may find ourselves participating in exciting things because of this, because we are just in the mood to have some fun, especially after having a weird week like we have. So it might be a time just to get together with friends or do something fun or engage in some cutting edge activities. Then by the time we get to the 22nd, the sun's going to connect with Neptune at its midpoint. So this energy is like a full moon energy. This is the halfway marker of the Neptune retrograde cycle. So we're 50% done with this retrograde. We have a few more months to go, and by a few more months, we've got about a good 3 more months. Once we get into December, well, not once, end of December or so, we'll get out of Neptune retrograde in terms of its motion. But this brings in a mixed bag tone considering we've got that Uranus situation. We also have Pluto making a trine with the sun as well. It's going to bring in a mixed bag tone because this is a little more sobering. We may come to a realization about unconscious ego problems and destructive habits that we really need to fix. And so this can serve as a reality check to our persona or the facets of someone else's that we just lacked insight about or we're just not aware of. Because what Neptune retrograde does is the opposite of what it does when it's in its regular emotion, where things get revealed that maybe we were in denial about or we were refusing to look at, or if it was us and we were unconsciously repeating something that was not healthy for us. So this can show us where we really need to get constructive in specific areas. Also, we may feel extrasensory more than typical. We saw that psychic energy on the graph earlier, and that deals with that, and that also deals with Venus being at that apex point with Neptune. Also, Uranus is involved in this in its retrograde cycle too. So this is where I was saying with the end of the week, that yacht is going to get kicked into full gear with all these other activations that are occurring during that time. So it can really make us aware of a lot of patterns with Venusian things and also sun patterns and also Neptunian stuff and yeah, Uranus stuff as well, even if that happens to be a very happy-go-lucky aspect. Then we have a retrograde ending point. The sun's going to make a trine with Pluto just before Libra season begins. And so we're at the final weeks of Pluto's retrograde motion. And this is a stage where Pluto starts decelerating to go into its station. So Pluto is going to be slowing down. And this is marking the end of that retrograde chapter. Of course, yes, we have the post shadow that ends up happening at that point in time. But it can feel like we're kind of closing a book at this point or finalizing something or feeling like we finally have the capacity to let go of old baggage that's holding us back in terms of our confidence or ego and other patterns that maybe we repressed that we weren't trying to deal with at some point in time in our lives. So in the upcoming weeks of this retrograde, it could be a time of identifying what's preventing us from moving forward forward and what type of unproductive things that we need to change in our lives. This could be a period of connecting to our inner power and remove obstacles that are preventing us from self-expression. And so that same day that Pluto is making this trine with the sun, Libra season is going to begin. Happy birthday to all the Libras out there, and happy fall equinox. Or spring if you're in the southern hemisphere. So now that we're at the equinox point for Libra, we're approaching that equal day, equal night point. We also get this point when we're in Aries season. So with that, as we lead the practical application of Virgo, we shift to a more charming approach when it comes down to how we express ourselves. So over these next 4 weeks, we'll feel a more revved up desire for connection and gain a substantial ego boost from our close-knit bonds. So this will shift the energy to a more communal and charismatic tone. But one thing to note before I go on and on about Libra, we're entering a situation where the sun happens to be in a condition called fall. Essential Dignities is a system in astrology that pairs planets with signs to see which planets fit well and others that may run into snag. And this is because the sun is exalted in Aries, the opposite of Libra, which is about the advantages of doing things for yourself versus the advantages you get in Libra from doing things for others. The sun rules Leo as well, which happens to be about your own identity and self-expression and standing out for your unique talents and not sharing the spotlight with other people. So this is where it can run into snags because Libra energy is all about reciprocity and the benefits of close-knit bonds and the confidence we get from others, expressing ourselves through others, identifying with something more than ourselves. So sure, there can be some snags with this energy, but does this mean we're going to have a bad time in Libra? Absolutely not. Libra is also about soaking up the beauty of light, culture, food, art, polishing everything so the aesthetic is just right, and getting a substantial ego boost from advocating for others. So that can't all be bad now, can it? A transit like this promotes the need to meet others halfway and to do things fairly, and to try to see where someone else is coming from to work through our problems in order to actually have some peace and tranquility in our lives. Energy like this allows for us to be a little more considerate and take the time out to understand someone else's side of the situation rather than ours, or both sides of a situation. So something like this is going to promote compromise and craving peace and harmony rather than being victorious over others. All of our one-on-one relationships are going to get an extra boost or more of a highlight during this time too. Not that they don't at certain times a year or when we're having a lot of Libran times or signs that promote relational things like mostly the air signs, but one-on-one relationships is not just our romantic relationships, it's our platonic relationships as well. Generally our close-knit bonds when it comes to Libra. So we could be in the mood to work on our romantic scenarios, we could be in the mood to work on our friendships or other people who are close in our lives, like certain family members that may have that close-knit, you may have that close-knit bond with. And overall, socially, this is just going to get us in the mood to just be with others. Maybe we might have had a period where we were to ourselves a little more in the Virgo energy. So this may rev up the urge to just be social, whether that be mingling with our friends, going on dates, doing something fun and artsy, or doing something beauty related, or feeling the urge to go shopping because we're dealing with Venusian energy. And Venusian energy is how we adorn ourselves. Libra is a Venus ruled sign, and the sun is being deposited by Venus right now. And so this could really rev up the urge to boost our egos and our confidence through beautiful clothing and aesthetic. Of course, there is a lower vibration to this, as there is anytime a planet changes signs. And even though Libra energy is fun and fair and harmonious, there's still some lower aspects to it. The relationship stuff, our one-on-ones, our close unions, a lot of that tends to get hyper focused on, and that's not a bad thing to focus on our relationships. However, with the sun being about identity and Libra being about how we relate to others, sometimes our identity can get wrapped up in other people, and it leads to a lot of codependency and not knowing where you start and that person begins. And so you want to ensure you're not losing yourself in your close unions. Self-reliance becomes a dicey thing in this energy as well. And so sometimes it can feel like you're having to check what other people think rather than having your own opinion of yourself or embracing your own persona, like needing someone else's approval on how to be and how to act. and how to express yourself. Balance is another thing that can become skewed in this energy. Libra is about harmonizing and about balancing everything and making sure everything is nice and just. However, sometimes on the lower end, it could be about tipping the scales in your favor and only feeling self-assured when fairness is going your way. On the flip side of that, we might be overly accommodating and making sure everything is fair for others rather than having some sort of balance in that. So try to make sure you're not compromising who you are or not speaking up or advocating for yourself just to keep the peace. Because not only does this lead to giving up everything to make others happy, but it could lead to passive aggressive behavior. It could lead to resentment due to having to stuff your opinions and emotions down in order to keep the peace with others. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting week and a transformative one as well. So try to do the best you can with all of these energies. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.